Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Civic Application Implementation Techniques presentation. We're glad to have you. Today, during our presentation, we'll talk about the available Civic applications that Excella has and the benefits that you can reap at your agency from implementing those Civic applications. We'll also talk a little bit about resources that are available to you for procuring these Civic applications. You'll hear a lot from me. My name is Jessica Fleming. I'm a senior project manager here at Excella, and I've been with the company for about 7 years. I've also been in the IT industry for about 12 years. You'll also hear from Jack too, and I'll let Jack introduce himself and tell us a little bit about him.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Jack too, and I'm a senior solution architect here at Excella. I've been with the company now for 7 years and within the software industry, specializing in land and license management for over 10 years. And definitely looking forward to speaking with everyone regarding the Civic applications. Throughout this session, please don't hesitate to let us know if you have any questions through the chat. And one of our colleagues will be happy to answer those questions as they come up. In addition to that, Jessica and I will be happy to answer any additional questions at the end of the session as well. All right, so Civic application. So what is a Civic application? Basically, a Civic application is a pre-built solution designed to cut turnaround times for your agency's business processes. With the knowledge that we've accumulated in the last 20 years as an industry leader in government software, we've developed and designed these pre-built solutions using our best practices that we've used in our previous implementations for our product. Currently, right now, we have 11 Civic applications. So these Civic applications within each one, they include multiple applications for the corresponding group. So the ones that we have right now are building, planning, service request management, business licensing, occupational licensing, cannabis, short-term rentals, alcoholic beverage control, environmental health, fire prevention, and our newly COVID response applications. Okay. Next, what we want to do is we want to talk about the benefits of implementing Civic applications. So the first two that we wanted to discuss were they are quick and reliable in terms of implementing. In addition to that, they include standard automation. So in terms of being quick and reliable, basically we've designed and developed the Civic applications with the Civic platform's core functionality and best practices as the fundamental architecture for each solution. So because of this, this will ultimately cut down and lessen the need for any customization that you have, which will essentially lead to a more quick and reliable solution. In addition to that, in regards to standard automation, so for these business rules, we have what we call configurable scripts. These configurable scripts are basically pre-developed, so the code already exists for our specific business rules that we've seen. And these configurable scripts include the following that you see here. So we have record automation, we have record validation, license issuance, license renewal, send contact emails, inspection automation, and inspection scheduling. So let me go through and provide an example of what each one of these would entail. So for record automation, basically, we have code developed that would, for example, update the issue date and expiration date of a permit once a permit was marked issued within the workflow. For the record validation, these scripts we would use towards things that we wanted to check before something happened in the system. So for example, if I wanted to confirm that fees were all paid before I issued a permit, you could easily incorporate a record validation script so that if there was a balance on the fees, the permit would not be able to be issued. For license issuance, this set of automation would basically set the expiration dates for a license once it's been approved and issued. For the license renewal, it's slightly different in that the license itself will already include an expiration date. So what this will do is it will basically extend it a year, for example, in the future based upon what's already set. So for example, if I were to create or issue a license renewal using today's date, it wouldn't calculate 365 days from today's date. It would actually do it from the expiration date that's on the license. Next, we have send contact emails. So these are used when, for example, if I needed to let the applicant know that additional information was needed for an application during the review process, we could send an email out to the applicant letting them know to submit additional information. They can then see that, log into ACA, and basically submit those missing documents or information that's needed. For inspection automation, this configurable script would include automation related to when inspections were completed. So for example, if I wanted to add a fee to a permit when an inspection was failed because there would be a follow-up inspection that would need to be done, this is what you would use these automations for. And then lastly here, the inspection scheduling. This is essentially just used for instances where you would want to schedule an inspection based upon some type of event. So for example, if a record, a permit was created and a inspection needed to be done right then and there, we could easily just use this automation group to schedule that inspection. So based on the items discussed on the previous slide, here's some additional benefits for using Civic applications. So one, it's going to increase reliability and performance. Basically, over-customization is usually the main factor in an unreliable implementation and solution. So by removing unnecessary customization, we can reduce issues during an implementation, which would provide a better user experience for the end users as well as for your citizens. For shorter time to value, rolling out a solution is going to take a significant less amount of time when using Civic applications because the solution is already built and ready to review from day one. A lot less time is going to be needed for configuration of these solutions. In addition, users will be allowed to jump right into the system to see the setup rather than conceptualize how a process will look in the solution. Conceptualizing a solution has often been a key reason to extended project timelines. Next, in terms of fully supported by Excella technical support. So our support staff is going to have a complete understanding of the architecture of each one of our Civic applications, and thus we'll let them fix issues a lot quicker. Configurable for specific needs without creating custom code. So as mentioned earlier in regards to the configurable scripts, they're going to be already developed code that will handle a lot of business requirements. So agencies can implement future automation without the need for employees to be proficient in programming, since they can basically accomplish any future automation by updating a JSON file that's configured in the system when they go live, instead of developing Java code themselves. It's also going to be upgradable with any new regulatory processes and elements because it's a Excella-based solution. What this will do is it will allow us to, anytime we provide enhancements to these solutions, they will be made available to agencies that are using the Civic applications. And then last, since Civic applications have been developed and designed with best practices and standards, cross-development and agency collaboration and integration have been widely enhanced. So next, what's all included in Civic applications? So within a Civic application, it's going to basically have a business process from start to finish, meaning the start of an application all the way to the time that the application has been completed. So for example, for a building permit, what that would include is the intake screen, all the information that you're tracking to start an application, all the way up until the review is completed, inspections are done, and the record has been closed out. So just going through these bullets here. For regulatory processes, again, they're going to be complete record types. So any applications you may have, any licenses, permits, code compliance cases, complaints, and violations within code enforcement cases. So next here, in regards to workflows, so for a specific workflow, it will have all of the components that make up a workflow. So we will have already designed tasks, statuses. In addition to that, we will have the application statuses defaulted to specific statuses based upon the transition of workflows. Inspections and checklists. So for the inspections and checklists, these are going to be specific inspections that we found that were needed for specific application types. In addition to that, when an inspector goes out and conducts an inspection, there's going to be certain things for that inspection that they're looking for. And these checklist items will be predefined and pre-configured. Next, solution-specific fields. These are going to be your custom fields. So basically, specific fields that are needed for the corresponding application. Fees and payments. These are going to include this specific fee names and the amounts. And the payment types basically would include credit card, cash, check, things like that. Automation, this touches upon the configurable scripts. When an environment gets created and when an implementation gets started, certain automation is going to be predefined. So for example, we will have predefined automation for when emails get sent, for when a fee gets added, things like that. Reports and notification templates. So we will have predefined standard reports that we found very useful in most of our implementations, as well as notification templates, meaning things like emails that get sent out. We'll create a template so that that can just be used rather than having to manually create a template for every email. Standard libraries are going to be your basically configuration components that may be reused. So for example, in the future, if there is a new application that you want to make available to your citizens, for those workflows, if they are very similar to another process that you currently have, you'd be able to reuse that workflow template on that record. So there's going to be, a list of components that you would be able to reuse instead of having to reconfigure these things. And then lastly here, just contacts and licensed professional types. So basically we'll have certain license and contact types that we've seen through our implementations being leveraged. All right, so this next slide here is going to talk about our standard record types. And so this is just an example of some of the standard records that we have within our Civic applications. So for our building Civic applications, we'll have commercial new construction, commercial addition, commercial alteration, residential new construction, residential addition, and residential alteration. There's a lot more in these. These are some of our, the ones that we've seen used most often, and that's why we've listed it here. For planning, we have conditional use, authorization, subdivision, zoning variance, zoning amendment, site plan major review, as well as general plan update. And again, we have additional Civic application solutions within the planning group. These are just the ones that we've seen used most often. And then for our licenses, we have business license, general contractor licenses, electrical, mechanical, and plumbing contractor licenses. So again, these are some of just our standard record types within our Civic applications. This next slide just gives an example of some of the different type of workflows that come within our Civic apps. So you'll see here that we basically, depending upon the application, we have workflows that go from very complex, multiple workflow tasks, multiple statuses, concurrent reviews, all the way down to just simplistic workflows as well. So you'll get a wide range of the different workflow templates that you can use for any future enhancements that you have after we go live with the implementation.
Great, thanks, Jack. Now that you know all about what Civic applications are and what they can do, you may be wondering how to get one. So we're going to talk a little bit about the available resources that we have for getting Civic applications back to you. We do have a lot of assets and documentation that you can use when implementing the Civic applications. So there's step-by-step guides. There's a deployment guide that gives you very detailed information about how to deploy the Civic application. That goes along with the data manager import that gives you all of the pre-configured things that Jack was talking about, whether it's a record type or a workflow that's pre-configured. Those are all available in the data manager import. There's also solution-specific implementation guides for each of those 11 Civic application types that we talked about earlier. In addition, we have some training videos that will give you a lot of information on the Civic applications themselves and just the wider Excel Civic platform. This is kind of a high-level overview of the Civic application deployment guide with each of the sections that are in the deployment guide and a little bit of information on each one. So, these cover everything from environment preparation, which is, very important because you have to understand your Civic platform version and your configuration validation. So we want to make sure that the Civic application is a good fit. The deployment also includes the modules and the record types that are available. And any standard choices or data manager imports or any kind of post-deployment configuration that you'll have to do once you actually import the solution into your system. And, it's important to also note that you can tweak some of this information if necessary. If you need to update a status in a workflow, it doesn't quite match what you want, you do have the ability to do that. This is a little bit more information on what the tree looks like for implementing the Civic application solution. Just gives you a high-level overview of what is in there. So you can see that we have some installation files and wrappers, the configuration files that give you the details around the reports and the applications. We also have some documentation that gives you that solution-specific info that we were talking about. The reports that we have available, as Jack mentioned, there are quite a few standard reports that we found over the last 20 years or so that almost everybody needs. So those are included as well. And then any scripts, so those standard configurable scripts that Jack mentioned, the includes files as well as the JSON configuration files and any expressions to support the implementation. This is an overview of the data manager import. It gives you the correct order in which to import those data manager files, and also gives you the contents of each file, so you'll know exactly what it is that you're importing. And of course, we have training. So ExcellaU, if you guys haven't used Excella University yet, it offers a variety of training for our Civic applications, as well as general training for the Excella Civic platform, administrator training, all sorts of training options that are available on demand and in live classes as well. So as we've talked about these other civic applications, you may wonder, how do you get access to one? We do have a civic application prerequisite checklist, so that you can reach out to your account executive for. The checklist confirms whether the implementation you have right now is compatible with the Excella Civic applications. There are a few things that we have to check. Your Civic platform version, you have to be on a later version, whether or not you have ACA already, and your master scripts and event scripts versions, you do have to be on a certain, there are certain criteria that you have to meet there to be able to use all of that functionality that we've talked about a little bit, especially the configurable scripts. For qualified customers who have a little bit more experience with implementing Excella, you could also do some self-implementation. So to find out whether or not you would qualify for that, you can fill out the information request form located here at this URL. So some additional resources, and we've touched on these a little bit. Customer support is always there to answer questions. If you have a product question, obviously, if you have an issue or a defect, that's your first line of support, is to reach out to Excella support. There's also implementation support. So Jack and I both work in Excella Professional Services. So our team is available to help implement the Civic applications. We also have an expert services group who can help with that, and a really great network of Excella partners who are able to implement our Civic applications. And you can also reach out to your account executive. If you have any questions about whether you might qualify for the Civic applications and how to get access to them, that's always a really great first place to start. All right, I think that's everything we have. So thank you all for attending. We're excited to hear your questions and hope to see you soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.